Hey everybody, and welcome to Conquest Volume 17. We're calling this one My Chemical Reymance to weed out, those of us that are a little bit older. Our joints hurt a little, we have trouble getting up in the morning, we're cranky, probably have multiple kids, we contribute to our Roth IRAs, and, the TikTok generation and the younger Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes players. Um, we did a few nights ago a live Conquest event, a workshop, and this is kind of like a culmination of that to compile everything into a little bit of a shorter form video for people that don't want to sit and listen to me for 2.5 hours because that doesn't make sense to me. And as always, Moonborn, the lovely, lovely Moonborn, has compiled these graphics for us based on the teams that I have given him. And I gotta say, I give him a lot of credit because um, the notes that I give him every 3 months are insane. I'll actually show you. I wasn't gonna do this, but I kind of decided last minute. This is just what he gets sent every time we do a conquest, and somehow he makes that work. I don't know how. I'm not the graphical genius. He is. So we'll give it up to him. Now, one thing that I did notice that there are a couple very minor bugs in these infographics, and we'll have those fixed for you by the time we post them to Reddit and to Discord, so they will be correct. I decided to film this regardless of those things, just because it doesn't actually change much, and we'll talk about them anyway. So let's go over the global feats. Defeat 250 enemies on the challenge path. Super easy. We have that every single time. Win 15 battles with Moroccan Shin Hati. A little bit of an annoyance. I do hate when they give us two characters that we have to put into a battle. However, it doesn't say that they have to survive, so that is something to keep in mind in the earlier sectors if you do want to give it a little bit of a try. Attempt to inflict crit chance down 100 times. Not super worried about debuff related feats if they're over 5 sectors. Win 15 battles with Darkside Unaligned Force users. That's where SLKR comes in. That's where your Inquisitors come in. Not a big problem. Win 15 battles with a full Night Sister squad. We now have 2 full Night Sister squads. I prefer the older Night Sisters. I'm a big fan of them in Conquest, so not worried about it. Remove TM 60 times with the War of Attrition. That is involved with the Night Sisters feat. Generally, those ones are gimmies once you have the initial feat. Win 15 battles with a full Galactic Republic squad. We have a lot of options there. We have JMK, we have Gas, we have Quadme. You could do a Keller and Beck squad. You can do a Padme squad. It's just there's a lot going on, and that's a non-issue. And then complete a battle with deployable cooling systems, which is just a matter of turning on deployable cooling systems. Before we get into the sectors, one thing I do want to remind you guys on, when it comes to Conquest, it doesn't matter how quickly you get to the very end. What matters is how few of your battles are non-productive battles. And what that means is, if you recognize early on that there is a feat that you just can't get right this second, you don't have the data discs for it yet, it's not a problem to go back later after you've completed Sector 5, as long as you're doing those battles on bonus nodes. We don't know what data discs we're getting at this moment. If we have something like Amplify Agony and Volatile Accelerator, those are beautiful explosions of feats for anything that requires you to keep something alive. And I always try to keep in mind throwing one of those on the back burner towards the end of my conquest. But with that said, and I noticed that my Sector 2 is up. But with that said, let's head into Sector 1 and get ourselves going. Sector 1 feats, attempt to inflict crit damage down 50 times. Win 10 battles with Morgan Elsbeth surviving. Win 10 battles with a full mercenary squad. And attempt to gain or inflict blight 40 times. So right off the bat, I'm going to go with my BAM lead Han Solo Dash Render, and that is the core of my squad. What I do from there is up to you and up to which mercenaries you have relicked. I do think it's worth trying throwing Shinhati and Marok into that squad just to see if they can pick up some wins, especially on easier squads. If they do, great, that's less you have to worry about later. If they don't, just throw your highest relic mercenaries in there. That's going to give you crit damage down on the dash AoE. It's going to give you a full mercenary squad, and it's going to give you Shinhati and Marok wins, as long as it works, and we'll see what happens there. For Blight, I'm actually going to just use my Imperial Remnant squad. This works fairly low gear, and that's surprising. I became kind of obsessed with them in Conquest Volume 16, and trying them at 4 and 5 stars and seeing what they could and can't beat. And surprisingly, at high stamina, with a few Amplify Agony, they were even taking out Old Republic teams, they were taking out Phoenix teams, they were taking out Night Sisters teams, and I sat there thinking, like, my god, like, this is an amazing squad. Mine should be relicked by Monday, so I'm not too worried about that. Blight will be relatively easy, but again, as long as you have the Zeta, you should be able to get this done at low gear without dropping battles. For Morgan surviving, I'm just going to throw her into my old Night Sister squad. Now, I do have Morgan at R7 now. It will be a little bit easier than last time when I did exactly the same thing. I know that she prevents revives, but especially in the earlier sectors, as long as you have strong Night Sisters, and I've invested fairly heavily in mine, it shouldn't be a problem. There are other options. We'll talk about those in a minute. For crit damage down, right? Well, I should say another option for Morgan, which will allow us to get some crit damage down, a GL Leia squad, and just throwing Morgan into that 5th slot. It's going to give you some of the crit damage down, certainly not as much as that BAM lead, and it should give you Morgan surviving. We might as well talk about that now, though. SLKR, JML, GL Leia, Lord Vader, they're really good at keeping a team alive during Conquest if you have the data disk set up for them. So if we're trying to keep Morgan alive and you have any of those options, especially SLKR, you shouldn't have too much problems in Sector 1 with that. Your other option for Blight is to just throw Night Trooper into an old Night Sister squad. This is what I did during the first cycle of the last Conquest volume. It worked beautifully. The revives work. He sends out Blights constantly. It gets done very easily. If you don't have some of the options above, you can try Bo-Katan Mandalore for crit damage down. Now, this is where we talk about the first bug in these infographics, or maybe not a bug. It depends on what you want to try. I don't know if throwing Morgan is going to work down here. It might. If it does, great. You'll get your crit damage down and you'll get your Morgan wins. I think it's maybe worth trying once or twice to see. And it really depends on how strong your Bo-Katan squad is. When we did our live workshop, I was very surprised to learn just how many people in the mid-game were actually either farming her or had her in lieu of ignoring Jedi Knight Cal Kestis. I do think it makes sense. We'll talk about that another time. And if worse comes to worse, we always have a Darth Revan or a Malgus-led team. Bastilla's AoE will give you crit damage down on all enemies. I guess you could throw her, honestly, with any squad just to kind of get it. She is the vehicle that makes that work. Let's move into that next sector. Sector 2, we have gained potency up 50 times, win 10 battles with Great Mother surviving, win 10 battles with a full unaligned Force user squad, and attempt to inflict armor shred 30 times. Again, not too bad. That win 10 battles with Great Mother's surviving, you can try that Great Mother's squad if you have her relic, but again, you can also throw her with one of those 4 GL that I listed, who are relatively good at keeping characters alive if you have the right team for them. For potency up, I'm going to throw JML with Old Ben and 3 of my armor shredders. So Cam, Gas, and Jedi Knight Cal Kestis. You don't need all 3 of them, but I just want to get it done as quickly as possible. Old Ben does potency up on his basic, which means that I can consistently and constantly call him with the granted special from Jedi Master Luke and get that knocked out of the way pretty quickly. Once again, you don't need all of those armor shredders. I have all of them. I'm just going to make use of them. I'm going to do my third sister squad for the unaligned force user wins, and that's also going to give me dark side Ufu wins. Now, third sister does have an armor shred on a long cooldown. You might get a couple of them using her, so it is worth noting, not going too crazy with that first squad. You will get some of it done with other things in your arsenal. You have the other option of JMK, right? You'll see that I use a very similar setup: JMK, Jedi Knight, General Kenobi, Gas, Cam, and then Cat to try to get those armor shreds as quickly as possible, and also just to get Galactic Republic wins for my global. The one annoyance about Cat is that she doesn't armor shred the first time she jumps, so you do have to get back around to her, and I do find that the JMK squad most of the time just kill things way too fast. But it's an option if I find that I'm against a team that I don't like facing, because that cat leap generally takes out the vehicle that I hate dealing with. That Great Mother surviving, as I said earlier, you can try Great Mothers in that slot, or you can just kind of throw her with any GL. Now, this is where we're going to talk about that second bug in the infographic, the Blight and Night Sisters wins down here. That is obviously not going to be intended. That, Moonborn's a father of 18 kids and is overworked, and I make him do a lot of things, so we'll forgive him for that, but that will be fixed before we get it to Discord or Reddit. Unaligned force user wins, you can try the SLKR, Dark Side Ufus. You throw crew in there, and really any other Dark Side Ufus. I wouldn't recommend Kylo Ren just because he has TM mechanics, and that's going to weaken SLKR. But honestly, SLKR does kill things so quickly that it probably isn't even going to matter. That's going to get you unaligned force user wins and Dark Side Ufu wins. If you don't have those options, you can just throw in any type of Rey squad with just Ufus. I've picked Old Ben, who does have an armor shred. Jedi Training Rey, Baby Cal, and CLS, just because they're strong Ufus that I happen to have. Doesn't matter, it's Rey's ult that's going to do the primary amount of work. Moving on to Sector 3, we have gain accuracy down 50 times, win 10 battles without a leader. I always hate that one, but it's not necessarily that hard. Win 10 battles with Death Trooper Peridia surviving, and attempt to inflict stun 50 times. Now, I'm going to again use that third sister squad. Grand Inquisitor is going to work. Not as well, but it's still going to work. And if you're in a pinch and don't even have Grand Inquisitor, you could try a fifth brother squad as well. You're going to get accuracy down from 7th Sister's Unique. I don't know how quickly it's going to get it for you, but I think over getting the wins that you need, you should be relatively fine there. And it's going to get you Darkside Unaligned Force user wins for your global feat. Now, once again, I'm going to lean heavily into JML. Jedi Knight Luke is going to give me some stuns with his mass stun, but I'm also going to put in R2 or Ayla. You don't need both of them because of the way that the calls work. They both stun on basic, and I'm just going to call with JML. As for my other two slots, it doesn't really matter. In Sector 3, I'm remiss to say whether you should try Marok or Shinhati here. I'm probably going to save that for the very end. I don't think it's going to work. Just throw in 2 Jedis for the calls to get it done faster. Once again, I'm going to rely heavily on my Night Sister squad, but I'm going to try to do this relatively early on, just because I'm going to need my Imperial Remnants in the next sector. So throwing Peridia in here, I should get my Night Sisters wins and also getting my Peridia surviving. The nice thing is that Daka does stun on basic. I don't know how often you're going to be using your basic, but you will get a few of them there. And then right here in the middle are just some options for being able to get the no leader done. Depending on your data disk, there is a lot of other options. I like Cat Lead. Malik Lead is also a really nice one. And then you can just throw in the Sith Trooper with SLKR. Those 3 should have not too many problems doing this. This is one where we could list like 8 different things. Try whatever works for you. Some other options for accuracy down. If I want to use my entire Imperial Remnant squad, which I might try a couple times, I'll get Peridia Surviving and I'll get accuracy down from Scout Trooper Basic. It's not an AoE though, so I'm not going to get a ton of it. I can also use a GL Leia squad. Drogon, R2, and Rex all have stuns. And then I have my Jabba squad with Cad Bane. That Cad Bane on basic is going to get me my accuracy down, and I can use Jabba. And actually, in that fifth slot, I probably personally would still use Skiff, and I can use that to call Cad as often as I possibly can. Moving on to Sector 4. Sector 4, we have inflict speed down 50 times, win 10 battles with Enoch and Night Trooper. Again, they don't have to survive. Win 10 battles with Shin Hati surviving, and win 10 battles without losing a unit. So I like to lean on that JML squad. This is just how important he is to Conquest. Throwing in Jedi Knight Cal Kestis. And then I also have the option of Baze, Baby Cal, or CLS. They all speed down on basic. Jedi Knight Cal Kestis, I believe his is an AoE on one of his basic extra moves. So that's an extra option. And then I have 2 slots that are relatively open. I'll probably put something like Jedi Knight Luke in there, and the 5th slot just doesn't even really matter. Because my Imperial Remnant is pretty much done at this point, I'm just going to throw in the Enoch squad and hope for the best. I think that they're going to be fine so that I can get Enoch and Night Trooper, preferably surviving, just because I don't want to have to go back and repeat a battle. But again, they don't have to survive for the feat. For Shin Hati surviving, mine is still 4 stars, and I'm just going to throw her with whatever GL I think is good. She crit chance downs on basic, but I don't think she's going to be getting many turns for me, so I'm not going to rely on that. I probably will end up doing this later on after I've finished Conquest, again, especially if I get Volatile Accelerator. Now, win 10 battles without losing anybody. Your Night Sisters are a great option here because you need Night Sister wins. Your Inquisitors are a great option here because you need Inquisitor wins. Galactic Republic, JMK is just amazing at finishing battles, and you need Galactic Republic wins. That's probably where I'd put my primary focus. For other options, I just have Gas down here. Gas 501st, speed down on 5's basic. He gets a lot of TM. He does get to take a lot of turns, and I'll get those Galactic Republic wins. For Sector 5, gain crit damage up 50 times. Win 10 battles with a full Imperial Remnant squad, win 10 battles with Great Mothers and Morgan surviving, evade 100 attacks in 1 battles, right? I hate that last feat because it's just very grindy, but we're going to try to get this done as quickly as we possibly can. So again, I am going to lean on my regular Imperial Remnant squad. I need those Imperial Remnant wins. Evades, I don't know how many you're going to get. You're going to get some natural evades. And crit damage up from Enoch and from Scout Basic, so that should clear up a lot. You do have the DTMG squad available to you for those Imperial Remnant wins if you do have that squad. I personally have not fully invested in them yet, so I'm going to lean on the new team. For crit damage up, you can also use a CLS squad because of Han's special. You can also use JML. You have crit damage up on his middle special ability. What I'm probably going to do here is twofer the evades, and I'll explain my reasoning in a second. I'm going to do JML with Keller and Beck and Jedi Knight Luke and 2 other Jedi. And then I'm going to do JMK, GMY, and just a bunch of Galactic Republic, probably Cat, and doesn't really matter whoever else. Why am I going to split it that way? Because Keller and Beck does Foresight on Basic, which means I can use him as a vehicle to consistently put Basic on Foresight on the entire team, which should be incredibly helpful to making sure that I'm getting constant evades. I want to put GMY with JMK because I can use GMYs. Oh my goodness, there's so many acronyms. I can use JMY's spreading of the plague, spreading of love, the happy plague, to give everybody foresight. And I can use JMK to reset those cooldowns to try to use it as often as possible, thereby splitting, getting critting damage up, getting Galactic Republic wins, but also getting as many evades as possible. For Great Mothers and Morgan surviving, again, depending on the data discs, if I don't have Volatile Accelerator available to me, I'm going to just use a SLKR squad and hope for the best. You can use a regular Great Mothers team if you have that finished, but I know it's really tough when you have two characters that are 16 relic nodes and you're trying to get everything done. Now, you'll notice that I didn't say too much for crit chance down, but between all of those feats that we're going to be doing, you're gonna find that naturally you're gonna get a lot of that over the course of the 5 sectors. Once again, as a reminder, you shouldn't have to worry about keeping characters alive early as long as you can come back to them in productive battles, right? So things like Shinhati surviving, Morgan Great Mothers surviving. If I can put those off until later and have a stronger data disc set, I'm not going to put myself through the agony of doing those early. With all of that said, I hope that this does help you out. This is really my plan through Conquest. People seem to find it to be helpful to them. I will coordinate with Moonborn, not only to fix those minor things with the infographics, but also to get those posted on both Reddit and our Discord. And finally, I want to remind you guys, do not forget to vote in the Gungies. At this moment, we have almost 1,000 people who have voted already. Voting ends December 7th. We are looking forward to making this the craziest event that Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes has ever seen. With that said, peace out.